Well, g'day curd nerds. G'day curd nerds. Well, 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 g'day curd nerds, and welcome to another episode of Ask the Cheeseman. This is episode 90. Big shout out today to new patrons Andreas and Nolan Galea. Thank you very much for being a financial supporter of the show. I really do appreciate it. And a big shout out to all of the existing YouTube members and patrons. I really do appreciate your financial support. Keeps the show going, of course. We've also got Kim. She's here moderating today, so any naughty boys and girls who do naughty things in the chat will get booted out, as always. Okay, so we've got some questions already, but before we do, hopefully you're all enjoying the Cheese a Day challenge. I have been putting those out on a daily basis for the month of February, and it's been very exciting, and my 20 grams a day is looking pretty good at the moment, getting my calcium dose from all the cheese that I've been eating. I've got a video in post-production, which is Cam Blue, better known as Cam Benzola, so watch out for that one soon. And don't forget, if you want to support the show today, then you can do that with a super chat. You can see that down the bottom of the chat box, a little $sign, and there's one right now. We should get some notification. Oh, the curd nerd lamp's going, the whole lot. Got a little gold star. It's all happening. Thank you very much to Christopher for your super chat. Thanks, mate. Okay, curd nerd lamp off. Okay, we'll get stuck into the show, shall we? So the first question of the day, if I can find it, we'll do the one from Kim. Kim's put one in from Rudy, which happened yesterday. Rudy said, I received my order of lipase yesterday. It says on the packet, 0.4 grams per 10 litres of milk. Do I still add the same amounts as per your recipe? 1/8 of a teaspoon per quarter cup of non-chlorinated water for quick mozzarella. The answer to that one, Rudy, is yes. 1/8 of a teaspoon is about 0.4 grams of powdered lipase, so that will be fine. Just use that as per my recipes. Obviously, if you're using calf rennet, then that's what I use, so it'll be a fairly low strength, but if you use kid rennet, which comes from a goat, it will be a lot stronger. So you may want to ease off on it. Depends on the strength of that ripening agent in your cheese. Okay, let's go back. There is another question here somewhere. I think it's from Gil Herme. I think that's how you pronounce it. Says, hi, Gavin, if I sent you a piece of Kasu Marzu, would you taste it live? I'm afraid it wouldn't even get to me because Australian customs would, Australian quarantine would confiscate it long before, and if it got here, I wouldn't eat it anyway. I don't like maggots with my cheese. Thank you very much. The Italian Gamer says, what's the hottest provolone in Italy? Not sure. We've got another super chat. Ruth, thank you very much, Ruth, for your super chat. I really appreciate it. And no question, but lovely. So we've got some more questions. Where are we? Felicia says, good morning, Gavin. I want to ask you about cacciotto style. I read that the whole wheel is cooked in hot whey. How hot is the whey? How long? Can you explain it in detail because I'm interested? Well, I just did a little bit of research before the show started on that one. Cacciotto is just a generic name for a wide range of cheeses. Cacci stands for cheese in Italian, basically. but it can be made from either ewes, cows, goats, or buffalo milk. I don't have a specific recipe, so I'm not sure. We've got another super chat going off here. Let's have a look. That's from the Italian Gamer. Thank you very much. €2. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And the question from that one was how to find in Italy the spicy provolone. So there's two types of provolone. There is provolone. Oh, hang on. I know this one. I'll tell you in a minute. Two types of provolone. There's a strong one and a very weak one. So the provolone dolce is only aged for 2 to 3 months, and provolone picante is aged for more than 4 months and has a really sharp taste. So that's the spicy provolone. So if you're looking for something in the supermarket, or you can go to the manufacturer, then you want provolone picante. That's the hot and spicy one. Hopefully that answered your question. Anyway, back to some other questions. We've got lots of them today. Where are we? Sorry, I'm lost. I'm lost in comments. There's so many of them. Sarah says, hi, we don't have a cheese fridge. Is it okay to mature cheddar in the fridge? Probably not. It will be very slow at maturing. Once the lactic bacteria starts to break down into enzymes during the maturation period, it really does need a temperature of about 13 degrees Celsius, which is 55 Fahrenheit, to maintain that enzyme breakdown and perform something that's called proteolysis and lipolysis, which is breaking down the proteins and breaking down the fats within the cheese. So you do need that higher temperature for that to be achieved within the right time limits for the recipe, basically. So yeah, cheddar won't mature very well at 4 degrees Celsius, which is the normal kitchen fridge temperature. Patricia says, how does the water used for washing curds or heating pasta falada need to be non-chlorinated? No, not at that stage. The reason we use non-chlorinated water, Patricia, is because it inhibits the coagulation action of rennet. That's why we add when we add the calcium chloride and the rennet, we add it to non-chlorinated water. That's the reason. We don't want those two ingredients inhibiting the action of coagulation. So that's the reason why we use non-chlorinated water there. If we're washing curds, that's fine, no big deal, because the coagulation's already happened. And same as if we're going to wash curds for, like wash curd cheeses, like anything using brevibacterial linens. Okay, cool. Christopher, who's a member, thank you, Christopher, for your membership. I've made a Farmhouse Cheddar Blue. It's got great blue bloom. When would you, if you would, wax this cheese? I'd only wax it after you're happy with the blue content inside. So I'd only wax that cheese after the fact. I wouldn't wax it beforehand. Really, just keep the rind as clean as you can with a dry cloth. Just pat down any mold growth. I know the blue mold growth around those sorts of cheeses can get quite gnarly at times, but what you need to do is just use a dry cloth and just get it off. Very similar to what I did with that recent little update for the saffron infused cheese. Very similar there. You wouldn't need to oil it or anything like that because that'll inhibit mold growth as well. You don't want that happening. You want the mold to just go feral, and you'll get a really good marbling blue vein effect inside the cheese. Thanks for your question, Christopher. Jason from NKY Homesteading, thanks, mate. G'day. Larry, Deep South Texas, thanks, mate. Adam says he's made a cloth-bound red Leicester, and it's turning out quite well, which is great. Dominic, also a member. G'day, Dominic. Hey, Gavin, how Sorry, how are we looking for a Reblochon video? I probably put it on my list before, but I haven't got around to it. Oh, we've got another. Thank you, Ruth, for that $5 donation via Super Chat. I really appreciate it. Is there a question that went with it? Yes, there is. She said, when I made raclette, after cutting the curd, your way in the video looked very white. Mine was much more greenish. Why would that be? Is it okay? Yeah, look, it'll be okay. Milk has different variations, unfortunately. So as seasons go, it has more beta carotene in it. If cows are being fed on grass, then it's going to be a lot yellower towards green. If they're fed on silage and dry hay and straw, then it's going to be more white as well. So milk's very seasonal, and that'll be the colour. Okay, Highlander 723. Thank you very much. I think you're saying, Leicester cheese, stop making my favourite cheese called cheddar with port. It's cheddar cheese made with ruby port. I feel I have no other option but to make my own. Can you help with a video? Ruby port cheddar. That'd be nice, actually. I will put that on my list of cheeses to make, Highlander, and we'll see how we go. Thank you very much for the suggestion. Okay, back to some of the other emails. I've got them somewhere here. Okay. Reblochon, yeah, I think I wrote that down. Thanks, Dominic. I did try it once, but it didn't turn out. I'll have to try it again. Leslie, hello from Wanganui. G'day, mate. Joseph, how did the pepper jack come out? Very well, thank you. There's a video for it somewhere. And if Kim could find the link to the pepper jack taste test, you'll see that my mouth was on fire. It was a very strong cheese, very amazing. So that's pretty good. Negro Parquet Pero says, when it comes to air drying the cheese prior to waxing or vacuum packing, do you always air dry outside the cheese fridge, or can you do it inside the cheese fridge? It's best to do it outside the cheese fridge because you want most of the moisture gone from the surface of the cheese, because this helps prevent bitterness as well as forming a nice rind before you either wax or vacuum pack it before you put it in. If you actually vacuum pack the cheese or wax it while it's wet, because if you put it in the cheese cave, it'll probably be a lot more humid in there as well, then it may encourage bitterness or more whey to weep out. So you want to dry it as much as you can. Okay, Dwayne says, I was wondering if it's possible to make natto cheese. Natto cheese? Oh, good question. What is natto cheese? Let's see what the Google says. Natto cheese. It's a Japanese food made from soybeans, fermented with Bacillus subtilis. Natto cheese is not cheese. It is a soybean product. So probably won't be able to make that. Sorry, Dwayne. Okay, my pepper jack is ready in a few weeks. Well done, Aga. Geordie, hi, how are you? Sean's still waiting for the cottage cheese. I know. I'll put it back on my list. I'll get there in some form or another. George says, can you do a video on blue ricotta salata? Is it possible? Oh, anything's possible. All you have to do is after you've made the ricotta, sprinkle a little bit of Penicillium roqueforti in between layers before you press the ricotta, and then pierce the ricotta salata after it has air dried, and it should be fine. It'd be quite interesting. Might add a little bit more flavour because it's quite a bland, salty cheese. King Boarhog said, I've attempted Oaxaca for the second time. First time it ended up with a consistency of wet sand. That's not good. This time was closer to cottage cheese. Is it possible I'm not using enough of the cultures or lipase? Sounds like I'm not using enough rennet, personally. Or check the strength of your rennet. If you can get a decent curd set, that sounds like half the issue. You really do have to have decent firm curds before you can actually melt them or anything like that. So could be the milk, could be the rennet. Two things I'm thinking of personally. Sam says, my wife won't let me make cheese. Do you have any suggestions to woo her over? Get her to watch my channel. That'll fix everything. Yeah, Sam, I think that'll help. I have another super chat. This one's from Blaze. Hang on, I'll just make the light stop flashing. Thank you, Blaze. Blaze says, I ordered brie cheese from Canada. What should I expect? This is my first time buying cheese online. Ooh, well, it depends on how they package it. I'm not sure how they would transport it, but I do know that they sell cheese all over the world online now, so I think it will be okay. It depends on, because normal brie is made from unpasteurized milk, so I don't know if there's pasteurization laws there in Canada, Blaze. You may not get the flavour that is traditional to brie made in France, but it should be fairly good. See what happens. Okay, back again. I've got a question from Ruth. Ruth says, I'm struggling with brown mould on my 8-litre Parmesan. I wash it every day and can't get the mould off. Can I wax it? It's about a month old. Ruth, yes, please wax it. Washing will just promote that brown mould. It's very similar to Gruyere. It gets this brown coating all over it, around the outside of the cheese. So if you keep washing it. Now, traditional Parmesan in those massive big wheels, all they do to keep the mould off is brush them with a soft brush. And it gets the mould off and keeps them nice and shiny. In fact, sometimes they actually oil them. By washing them, you're actually promoting the brown mould from growing. To grow. Sorry, not from growing. Geordie says, enjoyed making the Jarlsberg. I quite like the washed curd method. My first wax cheese. Enjoying the low maintenance. Yeah, I'll tell you what. This Cam Blue that I'm making, it's high maintenance or what? Hopefully it'll turn out all right. Okay, Rocks the Barb says, if you want to make white cheddar, do you still add water that the dye would be in? Yeah, if you just if you reckon you've got good enough milk and you don't want it yellow or anything like that, then just omit the annatto. You don't need it. It'll just be cheddar flavour. It'll be a cheddar, but it won't have annatto in it, and it won't be really yellow. The Void says, hi Gavin, wondering what your favourite cheese from the Cheese a Day challenge has been so far. Let me just have a look. I just got a list here somewhere. Where's my list? Cheese a Day challenge. Just to remind me. I would say, well, so far, a couple really outstanding cheeses. And that would be the Shore River Buffalo Mozzarella, because it's the first Buffalo Mozzarella I ever had. That was really, really good. If you have never tried real Buffalo Mozzarella before, then do yourself a favour, because I tell you what, it is really, really good. And the Meredith Dairy marinated goat cheese on day 7 was exceptional. A really, really good cheese. Don't get me wrong, all the rest have been pretty good, except for the South Cape cream cheese with cracked pepper, which was disgusting. My memory's scarred from that one. The other ones have been great, and yeah, so look, we've got more to come, obviously, because we've still got 8 days of the challenge to go, so we may come up with some more exceptional cheeses as well. The one worth mentioning, the most expensive cheese was the Dolphin from France. Look, I liked it, but Kim didn't. She said it was like smelly old socks, and she had a little bit of it and just did not like it at all. So it really does go to show that taste is a personal, it's personal preference. So look, what I'm saying is great, may be different to anybody else. It depends on your taste buds, of course. Okay, another super chat. Thank you very much, Ruth. Another one. My goodness. Thank you so much. Can I wax my Fontaine too? Also brown mould. Yeah, before you do though, Ruth, yes, you can wax it. Make sure that you air dry it first So make sure that the surface is dry before you wax it. So yeah, please do that. Okay, back to some other questions. Where are we? Sorry, here we go. Ruth says she can't figure out how to do the question. Well, you just did. Well done. Thank you, Ruth. Crystal says, I just found you a few weeks ago. Oh, my goodness, where have you been? And I was wondering if you have videos with goat's milk. I have dairy goats due in May and will have fresh goat's milk. Yes. Oh, another super chat. Goodness me, they're coming thick and fast today, aren't they? Everybody loves a curd nerd sign. All right, hang on, I'll just answer this one. Crimson Ear says, Gavin, have you tried making a mother culture instead of individual satchels? Seems cheaper, but I've not tried. Yeah, look, it does seem cheaper, but the problem with it is it's a lot messier. You can make a mother culture using direct vat inoculated. You simply add them to milk, let it curdle, or let it set a little bit, and then you put them into an ice cube tray, and then you put them in the freezer. And once they're frozen, bag them up into a plastic bag, and you use 2 of the ice cubes per 10 litres of milk, and that will inoculate your milk. It's a lot messier than using direct vat inoculated. May seem cheaper, but I think you get a better result when you use DVI cultures. But good question. Thank you, Crimson Ear, and thank you for the £5. Appreciate it. Okay. Where are we? Back to the goat's milk question. Yes, there are a couple of videos. So there's a Sherv, which is a soft cream cheese video. Kim should be able to find that one. And there's a goat's milk feta, which is very, very nice. So there's 2 goat's milk cheeses made exclusively from goat's milk. I actually have a proper traditional feta, which is made from 70% sheep's milk and 30% goat's milk as well, and that's really good. But you said you've only got goat's milk, so just stick to the full goat's milk cheddar. So try that. Saffron Silence says, Gavin, I've got a question. Me and my boyfriend are wondering if you've heard of Morbier, and if you're maybe trying it for a vid sometime. Yes, I have heard of Morbier, and the problem is I can't get it here in Australia, from I think it's from Switzerland. So I'm finding it very hard to find real Morbier in just the supermarket anyway. If I went to a cheesemonger, I'd probably be able to find some. It's got a little ash line in the middle, which used to be, they used to make half the cheese from one day's milking and then put an ash line to stop the cheese from going off. They put it on top. They just scrape the ash from the bottom of the cauldron, the copper cauldron. And then they made another cheese, put it on top, and then it went together, and that's Morbier. But no, I haven't seen it, so unfortunately. But I could try and make it. I've got some French ash, so why not? I'll put it down. Morbier. There we go. Okay. There we go. Stompy the second says, can you make cheese without rennet? Yes, you can. It's called paneer, ricotta. There's 2 to mention. So there are some videos on that somewhere on the channel. Just search. Aga says, got an idea, make a semi-hard cheese, smash it to bits, then inoculate it with blue, then repress it, but lightly, and then try to get a whole load more blue in there. Yeah, that'll work. Well, that's actually how they make same on cell. So they have the curds fairly firm first. They put it into a mould. They let it settle. Then they smash it up again. And then they sprinkle penicillium roque 40 on it. And then they put it back into a mould again. And that's how they get the unique flavours and tastes of same on cell, which is a French cheese. About what says, Gavin, you're a top bloke. I'm from England. I'm looking into making some cheese because, let's be honest, why am I not making it or already making it? Just wondering how much, on average, a wheel of cheese costs you to make. Well, the normal ingredients for cheese making, so the starter culture, the rennet and calcium chloride, the salt. Look, you're looking about $1 worth per cheese. If you divide up all the fractions on how much it costs you totally. It depends on the milk, the cost of the milk. That's the highest price of the cheese. If you're using normal supermarket milk and you can get pasteurized, homogenized for, say, $2 a litre, $2 Australian anyway, then you're going to be able to make a fairly cheap cheese. However, that sort of milk is really not as good as if you can get, say, unhomogenized milk, which is pasteurized unhomogenized, which is the best legal in Australia anyway, milk that you can use for cheese making. So that may cost you up to nearly $15, maybe $20 for, say, 10 litres of good unpasteurized milk, unhomogenized milk. But seeing you're making about 1 to 1.5 kilos out of that 10 litres, depends on the yield, then you're getting good value for money, because cheese is fairly expensive, artisan cheese anyway. So it's on par with if you bought a really good piece of artisan cheese. Okay. Christopher says, when, if ever, would you wax a Farmhouse cheddar blue? Mine is about 3 weeks, has a great bloom. Look, Christopher, I just left mine in the ripening box and just kept wiping it down with a dry cloth. Keeping it fairly dry as I could. I didn't wash it or anything like that, just dry cloth, and keep it in the ripening box and just let that blue permeate through the inner paste of the cheese, giving you that marbling effect. Don't wax it, because you're reducing the oxygen. You really don't want to stop the oxygen getting in there. That's what Penicillium roqueforti needs to breed and create that lovely veining. Okay. Ruth says, last weekend I made 2 kefili and raclette. Same kind of milk, always used, both in California. A lot of the cows may be on in winter quarters. It depends on where the cows are, I suppose. California's a bit warmer than the rest of the US. Okay, Picture Perfect says, your Cheese a Day challenge has encouraged me to try something new. I've never had a goat cheese, but got some Montchevre cranberry cinnamon goat cheese. I'm a bit nervous to try it. Anything I should know about goat cheese? It's goaty. It's got a slight sharpness that you don't get with cow's milk cheeses, but it is delicious. Give it a go. Goodness me, what do you got to lose? Life's too short to not have good cheese. Steve, g'day, Steve. We just found Mimolette cheese, Mimolette mite cheese at our local grocer. I recall it's banned in many countries. Is it really safe? Yeah, look, if you're into eating live insects, they get most of them out, I think, during the cheese making process. They don't like them. It's banned in countries because they don't like importing the cheese mites, but they're safe to eat. Most of them are gone, I would hope. Okay, Holly Bolly Dollar says, HW. Oh, that's your name. Sorry, my boyfriend loves your videos. Please give me a shout out. His name is Ashley. Hello, Ashley. How are you? Lovely to have you on the channel. Okay, Christopher says, thank you, Christopher. Rudy says, excuse me. Hey, Gavin, how much was the saffron that you used in this cheese? I heard it's one of the most expensive herbs in the world. The 0.5 grams, which is half a gram, which is minuscule, cost me $7. And I used the whole lot in my saffron-infused cheese. Crimson here, hey Gavin, I've always noticed you use individual culture sachets. Have you tried making them other I think I've already answered that, Crimson here, in your super chat. Thanks. What about, Gavin, how much on average does a wheel of cheese cost me to make? I think I've already answered that. Sad Jester says, love your show, man. Thank you very much. Kim, thank you for the link for the triple pepper jack taste test. Clive Durr says, hi Gavin from Brazil. G'day, Clive. Steve, I've tried making hoop cheese, southern US, with mixed results. Nothing I've tried turns out like real hoop cheese. If you find a recipe for this, please share it. Steve, I did some research and I really cannot find a recipe for hoop cheese. I've looked and looked and looked, and even in cheese forums and that sort of thing, I can't find a recipe. It's not in any of the books that I've got, and I've got a lot of cheese making books with a lot of cheese making recipes, so that's unfortunate. Sorry about that. Patricia says, my first Jarlsberger's air drying will wax in 2 to 3 days. How many coats of wax do I recommend? I don't want to inhibit eye formation. Should I be concerned if the wax splits? Okay, a couple of questions there, Patricia. I recommend 2 to 3 coats. They're fairly thin, right? And the good thing is the wax expands, all right? Because you got it out at room temperature, it's going to be softer than it normally is if it's in the cheese cave. So it's going to expand for you. Now, if it splits, no big deal. Just re-wax the split bit. There shouldn't get anything in there. And if it does split, that's great because you know you've got some eye formation happening within the cheese. That's why we wax those specific types of cheese and don't vacuum pack them. If you vacuum pack them, it reduces the eye formation. So, okay. Catherine, sorry, is your cheese kit... I'll start again. Hang on, I need a sip of coffee. Catherine says, is your cheese fridge the same as your cheese cave? Yes. Yes, it is. Negro says, probably a different question to answer, but what is my all-time favourite cheese and why? I like all the cheeses. All the cheeses are good, except for pepper cream cheese. It's terrible. Not really cheese. I don't like processed cheese. I'll tell you the ones I don't like. Processed cheese, Kraft singles, hate them. Hate them a lot. Any sort of processed cheese, terrible. Not real cheese. Bit of a purist when it comes to that. Adil says, if I use vinegar instead of Rena, will it lose its fragrance and real cheese taste? Yes, it won't work at all. So use rennet where it says use rennet, never use vinegar. Another super chat there. Let's just turn the curd name light off. Ruth says, can I scrape or cut off brown mould before waxing? Ruth, you probably don't need to. Just brush it off once it's dry, and then you'll be fine. You won't have any problems at all. But thank you so much for the super chats that you've been throwing my way. I really appreciate it. All right, let's get back to the other questions. Super chats always come first, by the way. Right, so yeah, Adil, I've answered that one. Yeah, great. Bad Rex Raison, I think that's how you pronounce it. Hey, Gavin, have you ever considered snorking ham to a cheese? What? No, don't understand that. Was smoking ham to a cheese? Don't know. Wilma Charlie, g'day, how are you? Made a Gruyere using a recipe. It's starting to bulge in the wax after 6 weeks. Any idea? Could be a little bit too much CO2 production. Depends on the starter culture that you used. If it has some gas production, that will happen with those Alpine-style cheeses. You'll get some eye formation. That sounds like what it's doing. 6 weeks is a little bit young, but if you really want to know what's going on, the only way you're going to check is cut into it. But you've probably got some eye formation if it's starting to bulge. What about says, does anybody know if he's ever mentioned how much it costs him to make a wheel of cheese? I've already answered that. Depends on the milk. Dundar says, hi Gav, one of my Gruyere cheese is now 3 months old, in vac pack, but has a bitter taste with a slightly mouldy taste. Also notice it's less salty. Any suggestions to save this cheese? Dundar, yeah. All right, so age it longer because the proteolysis hasn't finished yet. Really has, the proteins haven't broken down properly, and there is a slight bitterness in there. You're going to need to age it longer, at least up to 6 months, and you'll find that bitterness goes away. The saltiness Sounds like you didn't salt it enough, which may have induced the bitterness as well. If that's the case, after the 6 months and it still tastes bitter, there wasn't enough salt to inhibit the lactic bacteria growth, whereas they should have died off. So that's a couple of suggestions there. Geordie says, if I win the lottery tonight, I'll pay for you and Kim to tour all the great cheesemakers in the UK and Europe for your channel. Thanks, Geordie. I'd appreciate that. That would be good. And we video every single one, because we could. Better get my passport up to date. I think it's expired. I better get a new one. Dominique says, what size mould will you use for a 4-litre batch to make brine? Do 186 millimetre will be good. What mould size would you use for a 4-litre batch? I do use for 6 to 4 litre batches of milk. I use a smaller mould. It's on our website. Kim might be able to find the link. It's the 800-gram mould, and presses down quite well. Get a cheese about that big, about that round. But the smaller mould's a lot better. 186 millimetres, a little bit too big for 4-litre batch of milk. You'll get just a flat, fairly round cheese and very flat. Unless that's the style you're going for. Okay. George says, can I use frozen milk to make cheese? Look, I have in the past. Somebody bought me over some raw milk from Tasmania, one of my friends, and had it frozen. I defrosted it and made a very good Vicino Romano out of it. Raw milk Romano. Very nice indeed. Ruth says, I made 2 attempts at Oaxaca 2. Each time I came out with a bucket of beans. I'm trying to get the nerve to try it again. We ate them anyway and they tasted great. Well done, Ruth. Yeah, look, when you make Oaxaca, it should be the same as when you cut the curd on a normal cheese. There's no difference there. And stirring, of course, we stir for a little while. And the only difference from making those pasta falada cheeses is when you've got your curds and you've drained them, and you've cut them up into your cubes, and you put them into the hot water, it should, up to that stage, it should all be normal cheese making process. That's what it seems like to me anyway. Okay, got another super chat there. Oh, let me just, my phone's not working. Anyway, I can turn it off. There we go. Char Char Dodds, love your channel, a newbie who aspires. Thanks, Char Char. Appreciate it. Thanks for the $2. Okay. Where did I get up to? Oh, I've done all those. No, I don't think I have. Where are we? Oh, Ruth was the last one. Blue cheese rules. Yes, it does. Thank you, Silver Stacker. Lydia, what are my thoughts on smoked cheeses? Smoked cheese. Oh, hang on. Let me have a look. I've got a smoked cheese coming up. What's the date today? 20th. Watch the Cheese a Day challenge tonight. And you've been for a big surprise, Lydia. And then you'll get my thoughts on smoked cheese. Okay, Mike's Big Mouth says, watching from Nairobi, Kenya. I've been to Kenya. It's a very nice country. I would love to make Parmesan and mozzarella for my upcoming small restaurant. Do I use raw milk or can I use pasteurized milk? I'm a complete novice. Any advice? For Parmesan, you need to use, well, traditionally they use unpasteurized skimmed milk for Parmesan. And for mozzarella, because it's a fresh cheese, I would totally pasteurize it. Yep, I would. Okay. I hope that helps. Smelly Papaya says, what is the biggest obstacle to start making cheese for the first time? Biggest obstacle is fear. That's what I think the biggest obstacle is. People are too frightened to start. So take that first step. Go and make a whole milk ricotta. Go and make some paneer. Once you've had a couple of cheeses under your belt, go for something, make maybe halloumi, Try even queso fresco. That's the first one with a starter culture. And then go from there. I've actually got a list of, there's a playlist on the channel that says start here, fresh lactic cheeses. So give the soft ones a go first and then get into the hard ones because you've had a little bit of experience with rennet and what it does and all that sort of stuff, and you shouldn't have too many problems. Blaze says it's pasteurized. Noah says, good question, Smelly. Yes, it was a good question. Thank you very much, Smelly. Acamedia Systems says, really enjoying your Cheese a Day challenge. Looking forward to seeing a month-end summary. If you're able, which cheese was most surprising, most disappointing? Definitely. So on the, I was going to say the 29th of February, but there's no 29th of February this month. On the 1st of March, I will be filming a wrap-up, basically, of the Cheese a Day challenge. Which ones? I'll do the top 5 and the bottom 5 out of the 28 cheeses that I've tried. Looking forward to that. I've got some rudimentary scoring that I've done so far. And yeah, that'll be a good video, I think. Pop that out there. Okay. Answer those ones. Ruth says she's loving the daily challenge. Any daily video is wonderful. Thanks, Ruth. I just wish they were getting some more views compared to the making videos. They really do. They're probably only getting about 25% of the views that a normal cheese making video gets, which is disappointing. I just wanted to try this as an experiment. It hasn't got me down. I'm not giving up. I really want to finish the challenge and get all those other videos, the last 8 done. But will I do a daily challenge again? It's a lot of work. And you can see that my normal cheese videos have kind of suffered because of it. So I'd really enjoy the daily challenge as well. But it's reducing the normal videos that are on the channel. But I'll get into that in March. Okay. Helen says, are some cheeses supposed to smell and taste of ammonia? Some cheeses do. Mainly the mould ripened ones. So white mould ripened cheeses and some blues do smell a little bit like ammonia. They don't taste like ammonia. Not that I've tasted ammonia anyway. It's probably terrible. And it's not good for you anyway. But yeah, the blue and white moulds produce ammonia during the ripening process. George says goat yield is small. You'll need a few for cheese production. I think that's goat's milk as in from a single goat. Yeah, the yield is smaller than you would get from a cow, obviously. Yeah, so you need a few milkings. But make sure you use the milk. If you're using the raw goat's milk, make sure you use it within 3 days or it'll start to curdle by itself. Unless you pasteurize each batch as you go along. Dave says, Gavin, I've been making your cheeses in Croydon, UK for some time. So I love your recipes and sometimes struggle to find equivalents for my products. Yes, some of them are unique. That's, I must admit. But yeah, they are. Look, I'm blowing my own trumpet here. I do like my cheese recipes. Some of them are just great. Jedi Fat, I just made 100% raw goat's milk Romano. Oh, that'd be really nice. Yeah, good. So that'll be Caprio Romano or something close to that. Dave Ward, by the way, they all come out really great. Thanks, Dave. Artemis the Phoenix, Crimson Ear, you can also use kefir to make a more natural option instead of commercially manufactured cultures. Yes, you can. And David Asher in his book, The Art of Cheese Making, The Natural Way to Making Cheese, does talk about how to use kefir as a starter culture. It's got mesophilic and thermophilic starter cultures within the kefir grains. You have to use kefir grains to get the best out of that. Gee, I'll tell you what, I'm like 15, 16 minutes behind on the questions. Have you looked into trying a dry aging bag like a my bag for dry aging? No, I haven't. I don't know what that is. Let me just quick Google search on that one. A my bag. Right. Looks like a plastic bag for dry aging steaks. No, I use vacuum packing. It's a little bit different, I suppose. Okay. Jared says, "Hi Gavin, just made Farmhouse cheddar. My yield was much smaller than yours. I used whole milk, pasteurized, homogenized, as that's all I could find. Would that be the reason?" Yes, indeed, it is. Homogenization really does stuff up the structure of the milk proteins and milk fat globules, and they will be a lot smaller, and you will lose a lot more cream and fat out of the cheese during the cheese making process. I remember the first probably 10 cheeses that I made, I using pasteurized homogenized, because that's all I could get as well, until I searched a little bit further and found some local dairies that would supply me with unhomogenized milk. The yield is a lot lower. So Ruth said, should I scrape off the brown malt? I've already answered that one. Dominique says, I made Morbier with one half of cow's milk and the other half goat's milk. We'll send you a message when it's done. And if there is any left, we'll bring you a piece if I come to Melbourne. Thanks, Dominique. Appreciate it. It'd be nice to know how that went. Mike's Big Mouth. A litre of milk here from where I am from is just $1 for pasteurized, slightly less for raw. God, go for the raw, honestly. If you can get it and you're happy with if you're okay with the quality of the milk and you got it within the first few days, then go for it. Axon Fax says, love your channel, been working on the bloomy or white bloomy types, got some great tips to give after a lot of trying out. I'll let you know I'm making a video on those. That'd be great. Share the link and I'll share it with the community on the community tab of the channel. A lot of people, I've been sharing a lot of people's videos that they've been making cheeses off, either my recipes or other recipes. I don't mind either, but I'll share any good cheese making video on the community tab of the channel, which goes into people's mobile feed on the YouTube mobile app. You'll see that in the feed, which is pretty cool. You won't see it on desktop, unfortunately, unless you go to the community tab of the channel, which most people don't go to. They see it in the feed on the app. Okay, another super chat. I tell you what, it's going off like a frog in a sock. Thank you very much. Who's that from? Steve. G'day, Steve. Thank you. Sent an email, attached a hoop cheese photo. Okay, that'll help. We'll see how that goes. Thank you, Steve, for your kind super chat of $2. Appreciate it. Okay, we've got 12 minutes to go. Where did I get to? There's so many. George says, I can only find pasteurized and homogenized milk. What can I do with this limitation? Well, knowing you'll get a lesser yield, because that's what I've just said before. Use calcium chloride. Make sure you absolutely use calcium chloride when using pasteurized homogenized milk. That'll get you over a little bit of the hurdle. You'll also find that the whey is a lot clearer too when you use pasteurized homogenized milk. Normally the whey is cloudy when you're using unhomogenized milk or raw milk. And the curd structure will be a little bit less stronger. Okay, Silver Stacker says, the cheap way to go, use powdered milk for cheese. It doesn't work. You cannot make cheese from powdered milk. You can try. There are some videos on YouTube where people make processed cheese from powdered milk, but you cannot make proper cheese from powdered milk. Just doesn't work. Chris says, what size pot should I use if I want to make hard cheeses such as cheddar, Gouda, etc.? I have a 4-litre pot. Is it enough to warrant a decent wheel of cheese? Maybe half a kilo. 4 litres, you will get 250 grams of cheese, which is half a pound. Probably won't do. You need at least 8 litres. When I first started making cheese, 8 litres was the norm. I was getting about between 800 and 900 gram wheel out of 8 litres. Now that I've gone up to 10 litres, which is fairly good, I'm getting between 950 to 1.1, sometimes 1.2 kilograms of cheese. And remember that you don't have to eat all the cheese once it matures. You can store it in the kitchen fridge. No problems at all. Kevin says, hey, Gavin, Mary Carlin has a recipe for honey rubbed Montasio in her book, Artisan Cheese Making Home. I've got that, Kevin. I've got that book. Honey rubbed. Let's have a look. So many suggestions, and thank you. I really do appreciate the suggestions. Montasio. My last Montasio didn't work, I don't think. Yeah, honey rub Montasio. Sounds great. Wish we could find Mimilette's recipe. Yeah, it's a closely guarded secret, Mimilette. And the cheese mites. I don't know if you'll be able to find all those either. Okay. Mers Dr. McDongles says, what's the oldest and youngest cheese you've ever eaten? Youngest cheese, same day. Oldest cheese, about 18 months. Dean says, greetings from Texas in the USA. Love your videos. Thanks for all you do. Thank you very much, Dean. Magma Goose, what is the difference between making my own cheeses versus buying it? My family thinks I'm crazy for wanting to make my own. Thoughts, please. Differences. The pleasure of making your own food. There's one difference. You may have some unique cheeses that you won't be able to buy in your area. And I've certainly found that myself, that through all the cheeses that I've made, I've never heard of them or even seen half of them, especially for sale in Australia, because we've got such a ban on unpasteurized milk cheeses. So you'll get some flavors that you've never tried before, and it'll expand your knowledge of the world, because you research all the countries that these cheeses come from, and you'll learn lots. You really do. There's some suggestions. I hope they weren't too lame. Jedi Fat says, I aged according to the recipe, I think total of 3 months. I don't have the book in front of me. It probably was 3 months for that Gruyere you were talking about, but age it longer. Or I think if that was the case, then probably not enough salt. Okay, Ricky Donna. G'day, mate. Kevin says, what are your thoughts on making Edom in a Gouda mould? Yeah, that'll work. Or Gouda mould. Which rennet is the best, vegetable or animal? Look, both the same. I get results. I've never used animal rennet, and I use vegetable rennet all the time, and it never disappoints. Never disappoints at all. I use Chimax Plus, which works very well by C.H.R. Hansen. Will Lynch says, I saw your Kindle book on Amazon. Are hard copies available? Yeah, there are. They're out of stock at the moment. I better make some more. They sold the last one yesterday. And if Kim's got the link somewhere, you put the link up to the hard copy. It's just a bound, spiral bound, which makes it easier to keep the book open when you're using the recipes. That was one of my beefs for lots of the cheese books. You have to buy a book stand to actually keep them open. So, book, print some more. Righto. Thank you for the reminder. Dundar says, so continuing the previous question regarding bitter tasting Gruyere, do you think it makes sense that I put it out of the backpack, put it in brine for a couple of hours to do more salty cheese and pack again? No, it won't make any difference at 3 months. Not at all, unfortunately. It may be a lost cause if that's the case. But look, try up to 6 months to see if that improves it. It gets rid of the bitterness. Ricky Donna, have I ever tried Casu Marzu? No, I haven't, and I can't because it won't get imported into Australia. I'm not going to Sicily to eat it either. Ms. Saving Grace, can you make Munster in a 2-pound mould? Yeah, can't see why not. Peter says, hi Gavin, I made my first Caerphilly cheese following a recipe, of course, and yesterday, most wonderful taste. Good on you, mate. Thank you very much. Yeah, the Caerphilly is a winner. Elizabeth, would cream cheese be a good cheese to try for the first attempt? Yeah, indeed. Really simple cheese. Very simple to make. Just hang it in the bag. Have a bit of patience. Make sure that when you are draining it in the bag that you do check for consistency. At about the 8-hour mark, you don't want it being too hard. You still want it being fairly creamy. Norma says, I'm enjoying the Cheese a Day challenge. Thank you, Norma. Kevin says, do you have a recipe for ochre from Quebec? If you have a look at the Port Salut recipe, Kevin, very similar to ochre. In fact, it's almost identical. So go and have a look. And Kim's already done that. Well done. Thank you, Kim. You are a champion. You're on the ball today, love. Not that you're not normally on the ball. You're always on the ball. Mr. Pearson, hi, Gavin. Just wondering if it was possible to taste a cheese partway through maturation and carry on with maturation. Yes, if you get yourself a thing called a cheese trier, you actually can bore a little hole in the cheese, pull it out, taste a bit, then cap it back off again. So go find yourself a cheese trier, and that doesn't wreck the structure of the cheese. Mike Long, show us how to make cheese. Indeed. Check out the videos. That's what it's all about. Skipping ahead, I've only got 4 minutes to go. Kim's actually given me the wind-up, I think. So I will finish for the questions today. Terribly sorry about that. Kim's put the link to the bound book. Spiral is the way to go with kitchen laminated pages. Yeah, that's why I did the spiral book. I think kitchen books are a lot better with spiral. Hey, Gavin, when did I start making cheese and what interested you in it? Check out the first chapter of my book, and it explains everything about why I started making cheese. Yeah. Ruth said, what's happening to the pre-order of the new book? Gavin is looking into this. Yes, I am. There's a bit of a software glitch on the e-commerce store that I'm using, trying to figure out. I've got to add in some more code to be able to do pre-order. And once the book, so you buy it first without getting a book. And then when the book becomes available, then everybody gets an email with a copy of the book. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that. Otherwise, it'll be a manual process, and that'll really slow me down in finishing the book. So that's the problem. But thank you, Ruth. Charlie says, I want to make cheese for the first time. Can't find a beginner's. Do you have a good recipe? I'm in New Zealand. Yeah, check out that. There's a playlist on the channel that talks about Start Here. Check out that. Matthew says, I understand of hoop cheese. It is simply a pressed cottage cheese without salt or cream, just milk and rennet. Press the curds for 6 hours. Oh, all right. There you go. All right. Kim's giving me the wind up now, which is great. But thank you very much for all your questions. I really do appreciate them. Without your questions, the show is pretty boring, I reckon. But it's really exciting when I've got all these questions answered. So I really do appreciate that. I'll be back next week. All things being good, I don't think there's be any issues, but I'll be back next week. Same time, same channel. Don't forget to check out littlegreenworkshops.com.au for all your cheese-making needs. We export all over the world. So we send all the parcels all over the world for cheese-making. There's a Patreon link there if anybody wants to support on a monthly basis. Don't forget YouTube memberships as well. There's a join button below the video. I think it's $4.99 US a month, and you get some cool perks. And there's a merch store where you can get cool merch like my cup. Oh, let's have a look. Will it work? There we go. Me sitting on a cheese throne. Very cool. And cheese t-shirts. Oh, I hit the microphone. Certified curd nerd. And a few other designs as well. I think there's up to 8 designs that I've got up there now. Very cool. Thank you very much. I will see you next week. Same cheese channel, same cheese time. See you later, everybody.